I have to have a sparring partner.
Drake and Nicki Minaj have had one of the most bizarre relationships ever, mostly because it's almost impossible to figure out. They seem to be a power couple at times, but then sometimes they also appear to be enemies. And what really happened between them will shock you. Drake and Nicki both started their rise to rap fame in 2009 when they were signed to Lil Wayne's record label, Young Money Entertainment. At the time, they were each breaking into the major music scene as relatively unknown artists, which seemed to be what started their bond. They weren't just label mates who collaborated with each other though. Drake and Nicki also formed a really close friendship. In 2010, Drake publicly admitted to wanting to marry Nicki in the lyrics to his song, Miss Me. I guess the fact that she was in a long-term relationship with Safari Samuels at the time wasn't a concern of his. But when Drake was asked if the lyrics were a reflection of his true feelings in an interview with DJ Envy, you'll never believe how he responded. While speaking to the DJ on MTV2's Sucker Free Countdown, Drake confessed that he fell in love with Nicki the first time he ever met her. Not only that, but he also claimed that he genuinely had a crush on her, despite her feelings not being the same. Drake felt that even though he and Nicki had a playful relationship with each other, she saw him in a completely different way. According to Drake, Nicki viewed him as a little brother instead of a love interest. But when it was time for Nicki to address her feelings for Drake, I was honestly pretty surprised by what she revealed. Right away, Nicki absolutely shut down Drake's crush confession. She thought it was funny that he was saying that he loved her and acted like she didn't believe it at all. Nicki claimed that she and Drake were only friends and nothing more. I feel like friends, especially if they view each other as siblings, usually don't get as close and affectionate as Drake and Nicki did though. Not to mention the fact that they shared a very quick kiss on stage at the Hot 97 Thanksgiving concert in 2010. I mean, with all the flirting and future planning that was going on, their friendship seemed seriously insane. Also that year, Drake tweeted about being married to Nicki. I probably would have just assumed that he was joking if it weren't for Nicki's tweet. Astonishingly, she confirmed that she and Drake had tied the knot. There were so many people who genuinely believed that they were actually married, partially because it took a while for them to admit it wasn't real. But when Elle asked Drake about him and Nicki pretending to be married, his answer was so unexpected. Drake stuck to what he'd said in other interviews and admitted that he would actually marry Nicki in real life. He said that there was a strong possibility that she would be the only person who would understand who he was and still love him. I can't help but feel a little sad for Drake in a way, because he really seemed to be head over heels for Nicki. But at the same time, he definitely created challenges for her as well. And it was starting to become more and more apparent that there was trouble in paradise. When Drake dropped his album Nothing Was the Same in 2013, many people noticed that some of the songs on the album had pretty alarming lyrics. In Tuscan Leather, Drake even rapped that he wasn't even talking to Nicki anymore. I know they hadn't been in a real relationship, but whatever their connection truly was, used to be really strong at one point. So what happened? Drake ended up explaining that when the album was released, he and Nicki were finally in a good place again. But they apparently had no contact with each other for several months before that. And believe it or not, Drake had actually done something that made Nicki feel absolutely furious, as well as disrespected. This is seriously unreal. Nicki opened up about the beef she had with Drake, and it turns out that it was over the album he just dropped. Apparently, before it was released, Nicki found out that she wasn't going to be featured at all, and neither were any of her Young Money label mates. I feel like it was maybe a little petty for Nicki to cut off communication with him over that, but she really took it to heart. However, it wasn't long before she and Drake smoothed things over and were back to acting insanely confusing. In June 2014, Nicki and Drake briefly shared a stage at Hot 97 Summer Jam, and their performance definitely raised some eyebrows. I couldn't believe how affectionate and close they were. Drake even picked up Nicki and carried her for a little while, and her legs were wrapped around his waist the whole time. But that still wasn't as nearly as flirtatious as they get with each other just 2 months later. When Nicki released the music video for her single Anaconda, people couldn't stop talking about it for a couple of reasons. First off, there was a super suggestive scene at the end where Nicki performed an exotic dance. Not just any type, she danced in a very physical way all over one guy who was sitting down. And that guy was Drake. I can't lie, I really don't see why Nicki would have had Drake appear in her video like that if he was actually just a little brother to her. And even if they were just friends, it still seemed incredibly expressive. But unsurprisingly, Drake was happy that she'd asked him to make the cameo. He even took to social media to talk about just how much he appreciated being involved. At this point, Drake and Nicki had collaborated on a handful of songs, performed together quite a few times, and seemed to have a pretty solid friendship, or whatever they wanted to call their relationship. Of course, they had a few disagreements, but they always patched things up in the end. But then, Drake and Nicki's friendship took a sharp turn and went completely downhill. This was honestly outrageous. In 2015, Nicki started dating Meek Mill, who had started feuding with Drake not long after. Meek accused Drake of not rating his own songs, which Drake denied. I can't even imagine how tricky that situation must have been for Nicki. She told the New York Times that she wanted to stay out of Drake and Meek's dramatic fight, but they put her in an awkward position. What happened next was so bizarre. Meek and Drake started dropping diss tracks about each other, and it got pretty intense. Drake even suggested in his song Charged Up that he and Nicki had secretly gotten close one night, if you know what I mean. Finally, Nicki had enough of the back and forth, and she made a shocking decision. Drake revealed on the Beats One radio show that he and Nicki hadn't talked in a while because she intentionally stopped contacting him. He admitted that she handled the situation like he would have expected her to, and he surprisingly seemed to understand why she made that choice. I figure this was another brief turning point for Nicki and Drake, since they always seemed to bounce back like nothing ever happened. But that clearly wasn't the case this time. Nicki announced that she was single again in 2017, and it wasn't long before she posted photos of her and Drake back in the studio together. But Drake later confessed that the drama from his feud with Meek had forever changed his friendship with Nicki. I thought they were getting along really well and just needed a little more time to heal from their rift. But in late 2018, their friendship reached an all-time low. Astonishingly, Drake and Nicki unfollowed each other on social media. And even though they didn't confirm the reason why, I feel like their tension probably had to do with Meek again. This was seriously unbelievable. In a very unexpected turn of events, Meek and Drake squashed their beef and teamed up together for a song titled Going Bad. But Nicki and Meek didn't exactly end their relationship on good terms, so she was probably extremely upset that Drake didn't seem to place much value on their friendship. But Nicki was also mad at Drake for something else that was kind of ridiculous. Drake ended up working with Travis Scott on the song as well, and Nicki had it out for Travis. Not to mention, Cardi B, another one of Nicki's rivals, performed at one of Drake's festivals, so I'm sure that didn't help. In turn, Nicki fired back with her own diss track, Barbie Going Bad, in which she accused Meek and Drake of trying to end her. I can't get over how chaotic Drake and Nicki's once very close friendship had become. And it wasn't until October 2020 that there seemed to be a noticeable olive branch extended from Nicki. You'll never believe how she tried to make things right with Drake. In Nicki's remix version of Whole Lotta Choppers, she referenced Drake and his son Adonis in a really sweet way. Not only had she recently gotten married to Kenneth Petty, but they just welcomed the baby boy as well. And in the remix lyrics, Nicki mentioned wanting to have playdates with Drake and Adonis. I guess this was a good call on her part because it was a clear success. Drake shared a screen grab of Nicki's new song with the lyrics about Adonis and confirmed he would be on board to make the playdates a reality. After that, Drake and Nicki actually managed to rekindle their friendship. In the following year, Nicki gave credit to Drake for helping her overcome something huge. This was honestly astounding. Nick and Drake made their fixed friendship public knowledge in May 2021 when they hopped on Instagram Live together to promote their song, Seeing Green. In the video, Nicki thanked Drake for single-handedly inspiring her to get over her writer's block. Drake and Nicki genuinely seemed to be supportive of each other throughout the whole video, and I have to admit it was just amazing to see. And clearly they must have stayed on good terms because they teamed up for something seriously incredible not too long ago. Last August, Drake, Nicki, Lil Wayne, and some other artists performed at the Young Money reunion show together in Toronto. I sort of thought that the concert might have just been an obligatory business situation where Nicki and Drake acted civil towards each other just to stay professional. But apparently they'd actually worked through their issues. Backstage, Nicki and Drake got on Instagram Live together and they were joking around and acting friendly with each other. Obviously, Nicki is married now, so things aren't exactly the way they used to be, but it's still pretty clear that no matter what they consider themselves to be to one another, Drake and Nicki have an extremely close bond. Since then, they continue to follow each other on social media, and they still show mutual support whenever they can. It'll be interesting to see if Nicki performs at Drake's October Very Own festival this year or not. Anyway, what do you guys think? What do you think of their bizarre back and forth friendship? And do you think that it's true that Nicki and Drake have never been in a secret relationship? Let me know in the comments below.